Hey Student Success, welcome to week 5 of the semester. So this week runs from February 14th through the 20th, so happy Valentine's Day. So as I start, I'm going to remind you of your Student Services Assignment Workshop. When you go into My Stark State under Academic Support and you get a list of the Student Success Workshops, remember here is the entire list. So at this point, January is done. We are about halfway through February at this point, so we're down around here. So when you go, you have to click register. You'll go in, you'll register for Handshake if you're not already signed up as, in Handshake with your account. And then you'll get a confirmation. Your confirmation is not what you show to me as proof, so to speak. It's the certificate that you get after attending the workshop. So you want to make sure that you are paying attention to what workshop you signed up for, mark down the date and the time that you have registered, and then usually Handshake will send you a reminder about 5 minutes ahead of time, so the link is like really close to the top of your inbox and you can click in there, or you can just log into Handshake and get into the Zoom from inside Handshake at that time. So again, I encourage you to take a look. There's still plenty of time since we're a 16-week course, but looking ahead to just really make sure that you get a workshop that is not only interesting, it's going to be helpful to you, so that it's something you do want to spend, an hour, 45 minutes to an hour on. So that's your weekly workshop plug. All right, so we're going to go ahead and scroll down. I'm going to get into week 5 here. So week 5, as I mentioned, runs from the 14th through the 20th. You do have a discussion forum. So per kind of going back to normal discussion forum attendance rules, for week 5 attendance, you are posting by Wednesday. So you want to make sure that you post by Wednesday the 16th for week 5 attendance. And then you're going to respond to 2 other classmates by Sunday, as well as these other assignments. This is a heavy assignment week, so I apologize in advance. This is going to be a little bit of a longer video, and it's going to be a lot of jumping around because there's a lot going on in this week with these assignments. You're going to have to use Firefox as one of your browsers, so I'm just kind of letting you know that ahead of time. So real quickly though, I do want to just go over the chapter that's associated with the stuff we're going to talk about this week is chapter 12. So I have it pulled up right here. And it's about taking control of your future. So I just wanted to kind of go through the chapter. There's no slides that go along with it. So this talks about kind of where are you now? Every chapter starts off with this kind of a self-assessment, goals you want to set for yourself, some things you can do to reach those goals. And it starts off with just knowing your major, like knowing where you want to go, what you want to do, and what does that look like, being aware of the job market, being aware of maybe the changes in the field that you're going into, and all of these different things, especially as even since the time this text was written, how our job markets and our economy have changed since COVID. So even if you thought you knew what your job landscape looked like a year ago, it probably looks different now, especially if it's one of the fields that have been heavily influenced by COVID, in particular, all the healthcare fields, the education fields. Those are 2 of the biggest ones, obviously, that have been kind of really impacted and things have switched along. But there's a lot of other, if you're an entrepreneur or a small business, things like that are also shifting. So you just want to be aware of those things. So this chapter talks about just making sure you're doing your decision making in a thorough, informed way, and making sure that you are kind of taking the steps needed to get to your, to your career path. And so here's like a little exercise. It's totally optional. Your dreams are, why they're important, just kind of doing like this self-evaluation. And so this is kind of just starting at the beginning. So for some of you, you already know what your major is. Some of you might be undecided, so this is kind of where this first couple sections talks about, like this career exploration, making sure that you know, first of all, the difference between like a job and career, and then what do you want to do? If you are on the fence, or maybe you're thinking about changing majors, or you haven't decided yet, how do you get to that place where you know what you want to do? So this section talks about like just knowing who you are. What are your abilities? What's your personality? And this goes through like the Holland, if you guys have heard this one, this is one of the more famous or well-known personality assessments, the Holland personality. There are 6 types of personalities that kind of fit into these categories. So, and we're going to kind of take a look at this here this week in the assignments as well. You're going to look through and see, okay, which one of these, or combination, because you usually don't fall in just one, combination of these kind of fits me. Am I realistic? Am I social? Because a lot of research will say that your personality and your career should align, because that's going to lead to the highest level of job satisfaction. And so here's another like little exercise that goes along with this. So once you know your personality, which again is part of what we're going to talk more about this week, you can then start to take a look at, okay, well, what's out there? A great website is the BLS.gov website. I really like this site. Up in the upper corner here, you can see I've searched for physical therapy before, so I'm just going to stick with it. So I went to BLS.gov, I typed my major or my interest in the box, and once I hit search, I'm going to find the closest match there. So let's say I want to be like a PTA. I'm going to click on it, and what's nice is a lot of these sites look very similar. So once I get here, it's going to just give me a summary page, which is really nice because right off the bat, I can see around the year 2020, which is the most updated data they have so far, what people in this field were making per year, per hour, kind of number of jobs across different geographic areas, the employment change. So that's something that's really, and we'll get to that in just a minute, that's something to really take a look at. And then I can get some more in-depth information by clicking through these tabs. What are the specific responsibilities and daily duties that these people in this field have to do? Where might I find work in this field? How am I going to become one? What kind of education, licensure, certifications am I going to need? What's the pay going to look like? And it will show you kind of pay with this field, as well as some kind of connected fields. And based on maybe where I work, how am I going to get paid? The job outlook, here's something you want to pay attention to. What's the percent of employment projected over the next 10 years? So this goes all the way up to 2030. And so it's going to tell you kind of what to expect. And sometimes you'll have some really great looking numbers, really positive, and sometimes you might see some downward trends, which is a little bit discouraging, but it really does give you a good idea of kind of what to anticipate when you get into the job field. And then this can kind of tell you where to go for specific geographic areas, other occupations that are similar to the one that you're currently looking at, and then if you wanted more information. So I really highly recommend this website right here. And we're going to talk about another one here shortly. I'll also say ONET Online is another great site. I type in the same career. The only thing with this one is it's almost a little overwhelming because there's just a lot of information. It's a lot of data, a lot of facts, but it's really chock full of information. And so again, you can kind of like go through and really get into the nitty gritty of all of this. So that's what this section talks about here, is just knowing what's out there, knowing what's going to be expected of you, your pay possibilities, the growth of your field. Those are all really important things to know. Even if you knew some of it, refreshing and looking, especially as I said, as the landscape has changed because of COVID, and just being aware of those changes. So this goes into those environments that are connected to the different personalities. Just some examples. It's not a hard and fast rule, but look and see, like as you read these descriptions, as you either read them on my screen or when you go back on your own, look and see, did it kind of list your field as maybe an example with that? And just because it's not there doesn't necessarily connect, but just kind of gives you an idea of the types of fields that go along with each personality. And there's that website I just said again. And then how does these different factors affect your career choice? So taking into consideration maybe your finances, your personal and family situation, like how do all those play a role in my career decision? And what do you do from now? So maybe you haven't kind of selected your major, but you're starting to get a feeling for this. What do you do from there? Well, the next section talks about choosing your major and how your major is obviously a big stepping stone to your career, because it's going to hopefully connect to your career and your job placement after you graduate. And so this talks about, going through that process of choosing a career, choosing your major, and how to go about that. You want to choose something obviously that you're interested in, that you have a passion for, that is really going to fit your needs and your interests. Next depending on where you are again in your journey. Let's say you've already chosen your career. So now you're going to be talking about, okay, you're here. Is this your final stop? Or maybe you know that you are going to have to get a 4-year degree on top of your 2-year degree, or maybe a master's degree. So what kind of transfer are you going to have to do once you leave here? Or are you going to have to go and get another degree elsewhere? Are you going to have to go back eventually and maybe get a certificate? So knowing about that is really helpful. And also you can start preparing for that now while you're here at Stark State. So you also want to be aware of a lot of different transferable or soft skills. This is a really important thing. Transferable skills or soft skills are those skills, such as the ones listed in this box, that are helpful no matter where you go, no matter what field you're in, because they are always going to be relevant to your kind of workforce. No matter what field you're in, you have to have good communication skills. You have to be able to work with others. You have to manage your time, so all of those things. And so thinking about what transferable skills do you have, and then what skills do you need to brush up on is really helpful now. And what are you going to do to improve on those skills? So one thing is maybe taking a look at those workshops, because sometimes our workshops here at the college will give you some offerings on some of these soft skills. Other times there will be, different maybe chapters in a textbook, such as our class, where it's going to talk about a particular soft skill. And then sometimes just life in general will help you. You can also do things like volunteer or a part-time job or interning. All of these different opportunities are good for building up your soft skills, but also getting your foot in the door, getting a little bit of real-world experience if you haven't done these things already. So this section talks about volunteering and internships. I do want to take a moment to plug our career services. So I'm at the bottom of our Stark State homepage, and career services is going to be a big connection piece here. So I'm going to click in here. Here's our career services office. Even if this is your first semester here, you can use them to really help you from day one all the way to graduation. They can help you brush up your resume. They can help you start looking at, what kind of skills do you need to get into your workforce? What does your workforce look like? They also help with internships. So you're not quite ready to get a job in your field, but you want to get your foot in the door. You want to get a little bit of real world experience. They have connections to internships. They also have, job fair information. There's job fairs coming up, in a lot of different fields. Sometimes it's general, sometimes it's specific to different fields. You might also maybe need some practice interviewing, even if it's not for the career that you're hoping to go into, some interview practice. So our career services office is wonderful, and there's a lot of contact information over there, everyone who works in career services. So they are really helpful, and I wanted to at least plug them because we're talking about this section and this all connects to it. So this section again talks about kind of just starting to get ready. You're not quite in your field yet, but you're getting ready because you're checking out articulation agreements, transfer opportunities, you're looking at what skills you need to build, all of those things. The next section talks about career development, so you know what you want to do. You're really starting to kind of beef up your resume. So then you're going to really start looking into your career itself. So this section really goes into kind of career planning, thinking about what is your short and long-term goals inside your career. So I would encourage you to kind of look through this section for a little bit more detail on that. This next to last section here talks about networking. You can start doing this now. Networking is, a lot of people think social networking, and social networking is not the same as networking, although there is overlap, because you can definitely use social networks to network. It just depends on your purpose, what social networking app you're using. Like if you're using Instagram, you might use that in a way. If you are more kind of like audio visual, real estate, those kind of fields. I have a lot of friends who are in real estate and they use a lot of social networking to post and get the word out. Versus if you're in another field, like LinkedIn is going to be more your app that you're going to use for networking. But networking in general is just kind of making those relationships and getting to know people and people getting to know you. If you've not heard the phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know. There's some truth to that. You can do really well with your field, but if you don't know who to call or who to talk to or have an in somewhere, it might be a little bit more challenging for you. And so there's some kind of questions and answers, if you will, about networking, how to make those contacts. And one of the places to do that is at job fairs again. So if you're going out and you're going to job fairs, or you're Joining organizations. We have a lot of organizations here on campus. If you go to info for current students, we have under student clubs a boatload of student organizations, and a lot of them are finally starting to come back after COVID. These are ways that you could network because as you can see, a lot of these, like National Electrical Contractors Association, the Ophthalmic Technology Student Association, Society of Manufacturing, a lot of these are career related. And so you're making connections with other people in your field as well as advisors and teachers in your field. That's another way to network along with just kind of going out and getting opportunities. So this section really talks about what is networking, why it's important, how you can engage in networking, what you can do in networking situations, sometimes having an elevator pitch, which is like a 30-second kind of pitch about yourself, your name, your goals, your experience, to just have something in your proverbial back pocket whenever you're at a networking opportunity so that you're not kind of stammering like, because that's the question always people are going to ask you at interviews or networking. Tell us about yourself. And so if you have something just prepared, it's really helpful. Okay, so this is all about your network. And then we start getting to the last chunks here about resumes and cover letters. So again, this is for students who maybe you're really starting to think about getting into the job market. Although I really do recommend that you have your resume started now, even if you're nowhere close to graduating, because it's so much easier to start your resume now and be like, all right, what have I done recently? Than 2 years from now and be like, oh my gosh, I have to think back a couple years. So you really want to make sure you're taking a look at your resumes, different formats again, and this is where you could go to Career Services and go to their resume information right here and start getting some tips because there's different types of resumes. You don't want to send the same exact resume out to every single employer you send it to. You want to cater it a little bit. And so this is what this is going to talk about here, as well as in our textbook chapter talking about a resume, what that's going to look like. Do you need a cover letter? What does that cover letter look like? Some kind of verbs that you're going to include. And it's also great to look inside these sources here, like to see what kind of verbs are they using when they describe what do they do, what kind of verbs, what kind of descriptions are they using, and build that into your resume. Another place you can go, and we're going to use this as part of our assignments today, is under Career Services. Down here, we can just scroll down, go to Career Coach. This is another great resource. And I'm just going to put in here physical therapy. Click on that. Another great place that's going to show me my salary, my job openings, programs that are associated with this here at the college. If I wanted to look, I eventually want to move maybe 50 miles away from here. It's going to change the information based on the salary and the job openings. But it's also going to tell me those tasks and the wages. Nice little line graph here to show me what those wages look like, the employment projections. So similar information that we saw over here on these sites, but I think Career Coach sometimes is even a little cleaner. And then what I also like is this live job posting. So you can kind of click and it'll take you to Indeed. And you can look at actual postings that are right now. So you can see how are they marketing, what kind of verbs and wording are they using so that when you write your resume, you can kind of mirror that a little bit. So this section goes into more detail again about resumes, cover letters, and then of course, one of the most important parts of the process of your career search is the interview. So looking for tips for interviews, the kind of interviews you might be involved with, whether it's a group or one-on-one, how do you prepare? What can you do to make sure that you're as thoroughly ready to go as possible? There's a little bit of a interview study guide there, some kind of general questions, right? A lot of these interviews ask very similar questions. So if you can just have answers ready to go based on some of these kind of general questions. And I can tell you that I was asked about these questions when I applied here, over a decade ago. I was asked, tell me about yourself. What can you offer here? If they did ask me to evaluate my strengths and areas that I need to improve. So a lot of these questions, no matter where you go, they're going to ask. Some are going to be a little bit more specified, obviously, depending on the field. But these are good starting points to really know, and some other tips before, during, and after the interview. So I would recommend taking a look there, as well as I said, back if you are looking at our Stark State Career Services, There is interview practice there. We have something called Interview Stream, and it actually will record you answering some questions. And I know that might be a little uncomfortable, but you can watch it back, or you can have Career Services give you some feedback, like, do you talk with your hands too much? Do you use too many filler words? So it could help you also prepare. All right, so that is chapter 12. So I wanted to at least go through that because it is so connected to what we're doing with the assignments this week. So I encourage you to spend some time in chapter 12, depending on where you are in your own journey. As I said, some of you are here, you're still in high school. Some of you are fresh out of high school. Some of you have been in college before. Some of you are a little bit more kind of advanced in your years, as I am. So it just depends. You can kind of look and see where are you on this kind of path, and just pay attention and really dig into those sections that apply to you most, that you can most benefit from. Okay, so another couple of reminders. Check out bls.gov. Check out ONA Online, and check out Career Coach. Those are all great career-related resources also. I'm actually going to go ahead and stop this video, and I'm going to start a second one just so that if you need a break, this can give you a natural breaking point, because the assignments, as you can see here, you have these right here, but then you have also everything in here, and it's going to take a little bit of time to go through those. So I want to make sure I have a natural stopping point so it's not too overwhelming and too long of a video. So give yourself a break, get a snack, take a stretch, and then join me for part 2 of week 5. See you shortly.